Here we'll be talking about why non-technical founders should be cautious of traditional agencies and focus more so on a lean MVP instead. I know you're wondering, why can't I just go to any software development agency to build my app? Well, on paper, it makes sense, right? It seems like hiring a development team should always be the easiest path. They've got the developers, the processes, the experience, but the reality is most agencies are set up to fail for first-time, self-funded, non-technical founders. I'll explain why, but more importantly, I'll show you a much smarter way to get to market fast using a lean MVP approach designed to reduce risk and maximize momentum. But before we dive in, you might be wondering, who are you and why should I listen to you, right? I'm Timothy John Ozebu, co-founder here at Benmore Technologies. We specialize in helping non-technical self-funded founders turn their ideas into real functional software products. Over the years, we've worked with startups from all kinds of industries, including healthcare, real estate, logistics, and more. The apps that we've built have gone on to raise funding from investors, generate millions in revenue, partner with companies like Microsoft, JP Morgan, and more, and serve tens of thousands of users worldwide, including companies like the New York Times, Toronto Raptors, and Google. So, long story short, we've seen what works and, more importantly, what doesn't work when it comes to building software as a non-technical, self-funded, first-time founder. So I want to dive into why most agencies fail founders like you, right? The most important thing is that traditional agencies, for the most part, are designed to work with established companies that already have a technical team, clear requirements, and big budgets. Right? When it comes to first-time self-funded founders, it's a completely different ballgame. A totally different approach is needed to ensure risk is properly mitigated and long-term success is baked into the equation from day one. Right? Here's where most agencies actually go wrong. First being, they actually go ahead and overbuild, right? Agencies want to build everything up front because they assume you have a large budget and a crystal clear vision. This typically will lead to a bloated timeline and unnecessary features. You'll end up with a product that's expensive, takes forever to launch, and includes things your users may not even want. Number two is that they actually don't help you validate, right? Most agencies aren't equipped to help you research your idea or figure out what features your users actually need, right? They rely on you to come in with a fully fleshed out plan, which, if we're being honest, most first-time founders don't have that level of clarity. Three is they have misaligned incentives, right? Since they're typically billing by the hour, that means that their incentives are tied into making the project bigger and longer, not leaner and faster, which is the most advantageous point to be in as a self-funded first-time founder, right? And that's why so many founders end up getting stuck, right? They spend all their time and money building that perfect product, only to find out later that it doesn't actually solve their users' needs. And I'll even go ahead and include a couple clips of individuals that we've spoken to who have gone down that same path and ended up getting burnt.
And I don't know, there's just, after like a whole year of going back and forth on the phone, they promised it would come out to like probably $80,000. Well, I ended up spending like, I think somewhere around $140,000, and basically just then they kept asking for more bills, and I'm like, what's going on? Like this should have been done and over with, the amount of money that I've already paid. And then they were threatening to just like auction off the code if I didn't pay one more bill to some competitor or whatever, and I was like, well, this is all it was all terrible.
That is terrible. So that was going well, and then we decided to attempt to build an app for that. So I had firsthand experience attempting to build an app, but at the time I didn't know anything about project management. I was relatively new to marketing. I was relatively new to sales. All I knew very well was accounting, and so that failed miserably. Like we blew through like $1 million. Yeah, crazy. Obviously, we had business legitimate business expenses, but probably we didn't blow through $1 million. We probably blew through like $400,000 attempting to build an app over the course of 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that we've understood the problem, we want to uncover the solution, right? So the question is, how can we actually go ahead and build fast and smart with a lean MVP, right? So for those that don't know, an MVP just stands for a minimum viable product, meaning kind of like in medical terms, the minimum effective dosage to cure an ailment. An MVP is a minimum viable product to be able to solve a problem or really test a hypothesis with your products. Right, so our team kind of approaches things a little bit differently when it comes to building products. Instead of trying to build a perfect app up front with pixel perfect designs and everything like that, we focus on creating a lean MVP, right? It's the simplest version of your app that solves the core problem for your users. Instead of building out every single feature, we focus on the functionality that users need and solves their main problem. Number two is we want to leverage manual or semi-manual processes when it makes sense. In some cases, you can keep the initial cost low by handling certain processes manually or semi-manually rather than automating everything up front. Right? This is a strategy that can help founders launch faster and test ideas without unnecessary complexity. And finally, number three is we'll launch and gather feedback quickly. Of course, the goal here is not to build the final product, right? Think of, let's say, Instagram, for example, that launched with just photo sharing and likes. It didn't include stories, live streaming, video calls, all the things that you can do now on Instagram until years and years later, right? We want to go ahead and build just the first version to get something in front of users as quickly as possible so that we can start to learn and iterate on what the feedback is from the market. Now, going back to point two, right? Leveraging manual or semi-manual processes when that makes sense. We want to dive a bit deeper into that to really understand what we mean by that. So the purpose of an MVP is to do one thing and one thing only. That's to test if the market wants your core value proposition. At this stage, how you deliver that value, whether that's through automation, manual effort, or a mix of both, isn't important. What matters most is proving that people want the solution that you're offering. By using a human-in-the-loop approach for some processes, you can focus on validating your ideas while keeping costs low, moving faster, and refining only the highest priority elements. To dive a bit deeper into what we mean here, let's think about some simple examples from other industries. Number one is custom clothing. A tailor launching a new custom suit line doesn't need to invest in high-end manufacturing equipment right away. Instead, they'll probably end up making the first few suits by hand, where the point is to test whether customers are willing to pay for premium, cost-fitting clothing. And if there's a demand, then they can later reinvest into streamlining production with better equipment. So I believe you're starting to get the point here, but we'll go a bit deeper and paint one more example. One is event catering. A caterer testing a new menu item doesn't need a full commercial kitchen or team of chefs right away, right? They want to start off maybe even hand delivering their items that they make to their customers, and then from there, see if there's demand and reinvest if there is, right? One real world example in the software industry is Airbnb, right? When they first launched, they didn't have any automated payments or scheduling or matching algorithms. They just had a simple website where users could go and upload their air mattress and see if individuals would want to go ahead and rent that out for a day, a week, whatever the case may be, right? This allowed them to test their idea quickly, cost effectively, and gather feedback and then build momentum before investing heavily in automations or advanced features. If I can find it, I'll even post a clip of Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky speaking about how they did exactly that for their photography feature, which they later on added as well. They had the same mindset. Every feature they added later on.
Right now on Airbnb, you can, if you put your home on Airbnb, you can click a button. A professional photographer comes to your house and they'll photograph your homes for free. We have 5,000 photographers around the world. That started with Joe and I staying with this one host. Her house is amazing, but her photos were terrible. And we said, why don't you just put up better photos? And this is before iPhones had great cameras. This is 2008. And she said, well, I can't figure out how to get camera photos from this camera onto this computer. She wasn't very technically savvy. I said, what if you could press a button and somebody just showed up at your door and took professional photographs? She said, that'd be magic. So next day, I knocked on her door and said, I'm here. And I photographed her home. And then we sent emails to people saying, we have this new magical photography service, and if you want, you can press this button, and a professional photographer would show up at your home. Someone would press this button, it would just send me an alert, or Joe an alert, and we'd rent a camera in Brooklyn in January of 2009, walking through snow, photographing people's homes. We did this by hand without any technology. We managed it with just spreadsheets. Then we started hiring contract photographers. Then eventually we got an intern to manage all the contract photographers. Then we got an intern to become a full-time employee, managing other interns to manage the contract employees. And at some point, there were too many people to manage. Then we finally built all the tools to manage all the photography. But we did it only after we knew exactly what the perfect service was.
Now, as we can see, Airbnb is a global powerhouse worth over $80 billion, and it all started with a lean MVP. Now, the question is, how do we help you get there? Right? At Benmore, our process is built to get you to market fast while minimizing the risk. Right? First, we'd go into a discovery phase by identifying the core functionality that your app needs to create the actual value for your users by creating high fidelity designs in Figma to demo to your potential users or investors. From there, we actually go ahead and develop the MVP, right? We build out what's necessary to validate your idea using strategies such as human-in-the-loop systems where appropriate to save time and money. Number 3 is to launch and learn, right? Once your MVP is live, you can start to gather feedback, sign up users, and start generating revenue. And you're also not cutting corners, right? It may sometimes seem that the first version of your product isn't exactly what you envisioned it to be. Maybe you've invested a lot of time, a lot of emotion, a lot of research into your idea, and you want to see your full vision get brought to life. But the name of the game of software is not doing what you want, rather it's doing what the market wants, right? Doing what your users want. And that starts with an initial idea, going as fast as possible to get the idea validated, and then taking the actual feedback from the market to iterate, to grow, and expand your idea from there. So if you found this video valuable and you want to hear some more software related content for non-technical, self-funded first-time founders, you can go ahead and subscribe to our channel and check out some more of our videos. And if you'd like some one-on-one help getting this implemented in your situation, you can go to the description of this video, click the link, and book a call to speak with our team.